Okay, so I want to move on to exception. So the idea of the exception is something goes wrong somewhere. So we want to know, okay, the whole idea of software engineering is if something goes wrong, can I continue with my program? So if something goes wrong, I have to see what went wrong, and then I can see if I can continue with the program. So in here, it puts a picture of a circuit breaker that if something goes wrong in my home, in a section of the home, the circuit breaker is going to jump, and I can go in there and I reset it. But if I don't fix my problem, it's going to happen again. So something is going to happen. We're going to take a look at it, and we're going to figure out if we can do something about it. So if I have a problem coming in with input file and I get the exception file not found, I cannot do anything. I don't have an input file. I don't have my data. I cannot do anything about it. Now, if I have getting an exception of I'm expecting a double and I'm reading an integer, then maybe I can do something about it. So there are different exceptions that we're going to be talking about. And so we have two sections of it. One is we're going to throw an exception, and then we're going to catch and do something about it. They can be next to each other, but the goal is throw early, catch later. We're going to talk more about it. What do you mean by that? So when we throw an exception, we're going to be we have exceptions that's available to us through the system, or we can create our own exceptions. So if I use the ones that's available, it has some stuff for me that I can use, including its name. I can still pass a message to it. So in here, even though I'm doing the illegal argument exception, I can leave a different message in there. So when I catch it, I'm going to tell people about, in this case, amount exceeds balance. So if the amount exceeds the balance, I can send this back up. And then if the program has the user in front of it, it's going to ask for a different amount. If the user is not there, then maybe I just print a message and I get out of it. So we got to decide what can we do, but that's not my decision at this point. My decision at this point is I see something is wrong. I'm just going to let somebody to take care of it above my what's happening. So to do that, to throw an exception, we're going to create an exception, and we're going to use the word throw that we're going to throw. And we can put a message in here, or we can use the one that's available as a default. So when we're throwing an exception, and if that happens, then it's not going to reach over here. So it's going to just get out of this area. That means this balance equal balance minus amount is not going to happen if exception goes. So if the amount is not correct, we are not going to do this. So you're not going to have a negative balance. So these are exceptions that's available to us. It's already in there. So we have two types of exceptions. There are some exceptions that Java knows about it and it can detect it. And there are some that Java lets the developer to figure it out. So it's called checked and unchecked. So Java can check it for us, or Java will not check it for us. So for example, if I have file not found, or these are all part of the IO exception. But on the other side, on the runtime, I can have some arithmetic problem. I can have a no number format problem, which is part of the illegal argument. I have input mismatch. So I'm looking for something and the user put something else. That is part of no such element exception, and so on and so forth. So as we're working with this, I'm not expecting you remember all of these things for this class, but at least you're starting with this, and I'm hoping that you're going to implement this in your final project. Remember, one of the ideas that one of the reasons we're doing the final project is we can apply the things that we are learning. So when I want to throw an exception, I'm going to come in this list and I'm going to find something that's going to be closest to what I want to do. And then I'm going to use that, and I'm going to use the parameters to give a specific message to what I'm doing. We can put this inside a block. So I can check a block of code. So I'm checking this block of code. So I'm looking at this block of code. The question is, what can go wrong in this block of code? So I can have file not found. I can have number format exception. So I'm trying to read int and the int is not there. I can have next, and then I'm trying to read a string and it's not there. So I can have multiple exceptions happen in this block. So I'm going to put it in a block, and I'm going to catch as many as possible. So I'm thinking about what can go wrong here. So what we can do is we can print a stack trace. That is something that you usually see when something goes wrong with your program and crash. You see the stack trace. It's going to show you where it went wrong and how it went back up. So I am in the middle of a function. This function belongs to another function. That function belongs to somewhere else. And it's going to show me the whole trace of what went wrong. In this case, I am printing the message that they send it to me. So either the developer create a new message, or we're going to be using the default messages already there. So in this case, it's going to pick up the message from this exception and it's going to print it. So we are showing two different ways of doing these things. So we can have file not found exception. We can have a no such element exception. We can have a number format exception. So no such element exception is you're trying to read something and it doesn't exist. You're out of the numbers to read. So if something happens over here, and it's going to throw an exception, the rest of them is not going to happen. It's going to jump over here. And then we're going to be trying to handle it over here. This is in order. So if two of them happen for some reason, we're going to catch the first one, and then we're going to work with that one. So it's important of which one do we want to put first. Now, when we are catching those things, then we can do something. Right now, the basic things is to print something and move on, which generally we don't want to do that in our class. We want to do something else. We don't want to print because not necessarily we're going to have a user in front of the console all the time. So when the exception is thrown, then it depends on which catch is going to go. So if the file not exception is going to be thrown, the file not found exception is going to be catch. If the number format exception, then the second one. And if no such a catch, then there is nothing for this one. So we have a catch for these two, but we didn't count for this one. So if this happens and I don't have the catch, it's just going to keep going. It's going to be looking, thinking that somewhere, somehow, this is going to be handled. And if it's not, then my program is going to crash. So we have a handler for each catch clause. So then we're going to figure out what we're going to do in there. So if I have a user in front of me, I can ask the user to re-enter it, just like the amount, but I might have this somewhere else. And again, remember, our program is not on the console all the time, so I cannot use println. Maybe I have a GUI, I'm going to display a message in the GUI. Maybe I have a file that I'm working on, then println is not going to work for me anymore. I'm going to be writing to a log file that I'm going to send it to somebody who's going to look at it later. So we're going to decide what we're going to do at that time. Right now, the minimum is just going to do println, and then we're going to ask the user to enter it again if the user is there. So when we're throwing an illegal argument exception, we're going to be passing this message in there, and the message is going to be displayed to the user, and then we can ask the user to re-enter it, and then we can go back up and do the whole process again. Now, there are going to be times that's going to be some exceptions that I don't know what to do with them. So I am going to catch the exceptions that I can do something about it. If I cannot do something about it, I'm going to let someone else to take care of it. So we're going to put our exceptions. We are checking this block. As soon as something goes wrong, we're going to get out of it. And then we're going to have a catch over here. This is for the file not find exception. Then we're going to have some other exceptions. So in this one, it is a more generic one, that it's going to be whatever is coming in, I can catch it and print it. So we have check exceptions. So we have three types of categories. One is something internal happens. We are out of memory. So basically it is out of my control. As a developer, I don't have no control on this. Now, runtime exception. So if I go outside of my array and I get indexed out of bound exception or illegal exception, that is something that I can do something about. So if I can do something about it, then the Java is not going to check it. Basically, it might not be able to check it because it's happening in the runtime. So those are called unchecked. And the other ones we can, so for example, the IoException, Java can check those things. So there are some exceptions that is out of our control, out of memory, your programs will cache, whatever. But beside that, we have checked and unchecked. The checked one are the one that Java is going to check it for us. Unchecked is the one that we as developers are responsible for it. And we're going to take care of it. So that's our checked exceptions over here. and these are our unchecked ones. So as a developer, we are responsible to take care of these things. So checked one is external circumstances that the programmer cannot prevent. I cannot do anything about it. Unchecked is something that I have a control and I can do something about it. So in here, we have a block for the try, and then we're going to catch the things that we can do something about it. We need this throws file not found exception after our method. This is going to say to developers that if you are using this method, read data, this one is going to potentially have some exceptions that can happen. So we have to, when we see that something may happen in there. So that's what we're putting this throws file not found exception in here. So if the method cannot handle the exception, it's going to send it back up. So it's going to tell the compiler there is a possibility that exception is going to come out of this method. So don't crash my program. I'm sending it out, and I'm hoping that somebody somewhere is going to catch this and do something about it. So this throws is going to tell the compiler there is a possibility of something coming out of here. And if it happens and I didn't catch it, somebody's going to catch it, hopefully. So the caller, whoever is calling this method, has to handle the exception. So if I tell people that my method is going to throw file not exception, if you are using this method, you have to catch this one and do something about it. So if I have a function method that's going to call this one, I have a method that's going to call this one. I know the file not exception is going to come out of this. I have two options. One is take care of it. Two, say, you know what, I don't know what to do with it. I'm going to send it up. So if I have another method that's going to call this one, and it's not going to be able to handle the catch, I'm going to put something like this at the end of that method. So it's going to tell the other ones that's calling that one, hey, something coming out of here, and I did not handle the exception. So there is going to be a possibility of exception here that I don't know how to handle it, or I'm not handling it. So the idea is throw early, catch late. So we're gonna, as soon as we see something can go wrong, we're gonna throw an exception, we're gonna stop whatever is happening, and then we're gonna catch it later. So in this case, I can have my method to throw multiple exceptions, meaning that I'm not gonna be handling these things inside my method. Whoever is calling this method has to handle these things for me. So remember what we said, that if you throw an exception, the code is going to stop right there and it's going to trace back up or go look for the catch on that one. If it doesn't find the catch, it's going to terminate. Now, if that happens, we might have some stuff that's not been taken care of. So for example, in this case, we are doing the right data. And if some exception happens over here, and it's going to go out of here, my out.close is not going to happen. Now, we can, let me go back up here. So we're looking at this. So we have a new pointer writer. We're going to write data. So if something goes wrong here or here, and we are not handling the exception, this close is not going to happen. Now, we can have something called finally, which is going to be happening. Remember, when you're doing the catch, when you're doing the throw, the code is going to stop right there. So if you put the final in there, that by itself is going to happen all the time. So the finally is going to happen all the time. No matter what happens, that thing's going to happen. For that, for the print writer, they came up with something called try with resources. That means instead of saying try, catch, finally, they put all of them in together. So this try and catch is happening at the same time, meaning that this out.close is always going to happen. So this any questions so far? So this is called try with resources. So we're going to have the try over here, and then it's automatically going to close the file. I don't have to do it. It's going to happen by itself. It's going to take care of that for me. So this happens for the print writer. So we might want to design our own exception. That means I have to create my own class, and I have to create my own object and pass it on the way that I want it to happen. So if I want to create that, then I'm going to be creating a new object on it, and I'm going to pass some stuff to it. And because we created it and we're working on it, it's going to be an unchecked exception. That means we have to take care of it. This one is extending the illegal argument exception. That way I'm not, even though I'm creating a new class, I'm extending it from this one. That way I have some stuff already. I don't have to start from scratch. So when I create my own class, I am going to be calling the super with the message. That way I'm going to send this message to my super. So when we call the get message, it's going to get the message and it's going to do whatever we know we need to do. So if we have something that we want it to happen, no matter what, we're going to call it in finally. That is going to be for cleaning up. So you have seen that in C++, that you have to clean up after your pointers. Java is very, very good with cleaning up after itself. So a lot of things that you had to do in C++, you don't need to do it in Java. So a lot of cleaning up is going to happen by itself. So the point is that finally is always going to happen. So we're going to put this one in there, that if something goes wrong and we need some stuff and we have to take care of it before we exit the program, we can come up to this cleanup section and do something about it. Most of the time, we don't need to do anything with Java. Java would take care of it. Do I have anybody who wants to talk to me after the class today? Do I have anybody who's listening to me right now?
Me, Professor. Me.
Yes.
Thank you, thank
Yes,
you.
Professor.
Yes.
Yes,
There
yes.
we go.
We're here.
Sorry to wake you up. Okay, so we have this. So nobody want to talk to me. So after the class, I'm leaving because nobody said they want to talk to me. So
Professor,
we
can
all.
I talk about assignment later?
Say what again?
Can I talk about assignment later after the class?
Okay, that's what I was asking. Is anybody want to talk to me after the class?
Yes, one more. I was turning on my mic.
Okay, two. Two people want to talk to me after the class. So that means maybe, yeah, okay. So I have only two people who want to talk to me after the class. If the class is over and you want to talk to me, I'm not going to have time for you if you don't tell me right now. All right, so we are talking about the input errors. So you have talked about this before. So if I receive an input, how can I verify that input that's going to be a good input? Or it can be a mismatch. I want to read a number, there is a character in there. I want to read a character, there is a number in there. So we are asking a user for a name of a file, and the file is expected to have certain data values. And the first line of a file contains total number of values. Remaining line contains the data. Typical input is going to be like this. So this is one way of doing the data files up there, that the first line is going to tell us how many lines or elements do we have in this file. So I have 3 elements over here. Now, what can go wrong when I'm reading this file? Just concentrate on reading the file. So I open this file and I start reading. What can go wrong with that? What are the possible problems that you're going to have reading this file?
You have integer types and floating point types.
We can have that. Okay, what else?
Sign and unsigned type.
Sign and unsigned, is that the problem? If everything is unsigned, do we have a problem?
Maybe positive or negative.
What's going to happen if I open the file and there is nothing in there? What's going to happen if I open the file and it says 3 and it has only 2 in there? Or it says 3 and it has 5 in there? So those are the things that we have to start thinking about. Okay, what can go wrong? Because when we are doing the exception handling as a developer, it is our responsibility to think what's going to happen in the future. And I want to take care of it today. So it is not about today, it's what's going to happen in the future, and we're going to catch it today and we're going to do something about it. Otherwise, the program is going to crash, and we don't want to get to that point. So the file might not even be there. Either it's going to be you're looking at a directory and the file is not there. The format, one of you guys said that has a wrong format. The scanner constructor can throw exception if a file does not exist. File not found exception, and bad data. We can have a bad data exception that we have a bad data, and so we're going to put the try over here. Let me see. This one I have. Okay, so we are putting a while loop over here because when we handle stuff, we want to come back and retry it again. Remember, if we catch something, if we throw something and we catch it, we are not executing the all line of code. We're just going to get out of there. So if something happens in this try, then it's going to get out of it. And it's going to go to one of these catches, and then it's going to finish. Now, if I do a while loop, it can come back up and we can do things again. So let's see what we are doing. So what it says over here, the first thing that we want to pay attention is if I finish up all these things and I get to this point, that means I did not have any exceptions. So if I didn't have any exception, I am done. I'm going to get out of here. If I don't get to this point, that means I have some exceptions. That means I want the user to try it again. So I'm going to go back up. I'm going to do these things again. So anything goes wrong with here, my done is set to false. It's going to display a message and it's going to come back up. So this piece of code assumes that the user is sitting in front of the computer, and because we are doing println, they have a console in there, and we're going to give them a message, and hopefully they're going to fix the message, and we're going to try it again. So we're going to have a file not found exception that we're going to just print not found. We're going to have bad data exception that we're going to put the word bad, and then we're going to get the message from this. So we can use this one for multiple purposes. So this bad data exception is going to be used in more than one area, or more than one place. So we can send the different messages here, and we can take that one and add it to the bad data. And if it's none of these things, and it's going to fall into the IO exception, remember, I am catching the file not found over here. If I didn't have this one here, the same one would have fallen into here. So if we have a hierarchy, if it's the first one is going to be catched. So if I have file not exception got here, it's not going to go to this IO exception. But if I didn't have it here, it would fall into this. So we're going to have a bad data exception. That is the class that we're creating in a set of using the ones that's available. We're going to do the extend. So that is the inheritance. We're going to get the message and we're going to set it to the super. So that would be for my bad data exception. All right, so we are trying this out. We have our read file. This read file can potentially send a throw an exception, IO exception. That means what? It is going to happen here. I'm not going to handle it. I want you to handle it. Whoever is calling this function has to handle that. In turn, this read file is going to call the read data method. Read data is throwing a bad data exception. So this means I'm not handling over here. There's going to be exception here, and I'm not handling it. So this is going to come back up. But remember, the bad data exception is a child subclass of IO exception, so I don't need to put it over here. If it was not the same one, then here should have said two of them next to each other. So that means what? If the bad data exception happens over here, what's going to happen? We're going to have two places that it's going to happen. So I'm just reading the data. So that's the idea of breaking down things to the method. I'm focusing on one piece and one piece only. I'm not worried about the whole project. I'm just focusing about reading a data. So I am getting my in. So I'm going to be reading the int. So I'm expecting int. So if the int is not there, that's going to be my first line. That means what? I don't have my number. In this case, was number 3 on the top of the file. So if I don't have that number 3, then I'm going to send the message length expected. So I need an integer on the top. Now, if I'm going to be okay with that, I didn't throw that. I'm going to read the number of values. So in this case, I read that I'm supposed to have 3 elements, whatever number I'm going to have. Now, I am going to create an array. I'm going to be reading those numbers, and I'm going to put it inside the array. I'm going to check to see if I have more number. So that means I had 3 on the top, but I have more than 3 in my file. So that is going to be sending this message. Again, is using the same exception handling, but is sending different messages. So any of these things happen, I am not doing anything about it in this method, just sending it up. So when we call this data, there's a possibility that the exception is going to come back up. If the exception comes back out of this one, it is not going to do the return data, it's going to go and send the exception up. So this method here has an option of handling the exception coming out of this one, or send it back up. So in this case, it's sending it back up. So the data is not returned. I had an issue over here. One of these issues come out, and then I'm going to stop right here. I'm not going to do the return data. I'm going to send it up. So I have, let's go back up, see what happens. So